Welcome to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. This podcast is designed to provide momentum in our God-given roles of leadership as we partner together to equip today's Christian leaders for tomorrow's opportunities. Whether you're a pastor, youth leader, ministry volunteer, parent, or student, we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource for equipping and encouragement when it comes to your ministry and leadership influence. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this New Year's conversation. Happy New Year's, Jeff.
Happy New Year, Eric.
We have Jeff Bogue with us talking about holiday New Year's resolutions, traditions, all the things. Jeff,
Holly jolliness.
Are you ready to drop some knowledge on us?
I'll do my best. And I would not get your hopes up, everyone.
All right. Read your script that I gave you, and we'll be just fine. We'll be just fine. One of the things that is so fun in a new year is how do you just kind of capitalize on the start of a new chapter, on a new year. You can, think back maybe to the previous year and the 2 weeks that you lasted with your New Year's resolution and aim for 3 weeks this year. How's that? I love some of the New Year's traditions. What do you guys do for New Year's?
We get together usually with our friends, and so we'll usually land at their house. Sometimes Ohio State's in some kind of a football playoff kind of a thing.
Probably not this year.
Yeah, not this year. But so sometimes there's football involved, but games. Heidi likes to watch the ball drop. I don't care about the New Year's ball thing, but she likes it. And then we celebrate. And then usually what happens is Heidi falls asleep. I wake her up for the ball drop, give her a kiss, and then she goes back to sleep. And then we all go on and do what we're doing.
Nice.
But last year, there was a playoff game, and there was a field goal to win it. Ohio State. Remember this?
Yeah.
And they kicked the field goal at midnight. So they switched over to the ball. We all yelled, went back to the field goal, and we watched the end of the game. And so Heidi was like, Happy New Year. Yeah. And then Ohio State lost, so I was mad. She's like, this is great. Wonderful way to start the new year.
My favorite thing right now, my kids are little, but like making the false countdown, where it's like, yay, it's 9:00, and you're like, yay, Happy New Year. And you put the fake timer on, and then you send them to bed, and you're like, all right, Happy New Year. Meanwhile, it's like 9:30. Yeah.
Heidi is a get up at 4:30 a.m. person. She should come to your house.
There you go.
She would do that.
There you go.
Then she could sleep and watch the kids, and you and Bethany could go do something fun.
Absolutely. I'm in. Let's do that. Let's work that out offline. I think it's fun when you have those traditions. One of my favorite things in just kind of a spiritual sense is I like to spend the first month of the new year kind of I've done this for probably 15, maybe 20 years now, but like a progressive fast. And I always look at what are the things that have a hold on my life. I'm addicted to my phone. I'm addicted to social media. Usually coffee's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Playing stupid games on my phone. Depending on how my fantasy football team did, that may be up there. But so week 1, I'll take, a break from social media, right? And then week 2, I'll take a break from social media and coffee. Week 3, I'll take a break from social media, coffee, and fantasy football or whatever it is. But that process through the month of January is so healthy for me and is so meaningful. And usually it's in that month or so where I kind of start seeing okay, here's the things that I've made priority over Jesus, and how do I put him back in the center of my life? And then how do I reestablish self-control in certain areas? I think there's something to that, understanding in a new season, in a new chapter, in a new year, being self-controlled and having Jesus at the center. So Jeff, what does that look like? How do you even like go about creating New Year's resolutions or goals for the year? Like, talk us through your routine, both as like a parent, but a pastor as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. I do think there's something good and fun about finishing something and starting something, if that's your personality.
True.
So it's my personality. I like to cross things off a list and be done, and I like to accomplish things, all that kind of stuff. So it is meaningful that way. I do think it's a great time to be reflective, so it's made up, the calendar turns over. So it's like made up, but it's good to be reflective and look back and at a season of life and say, did we invest ourselves well? Do we want to reinvest ourselves differently? I think that's all a good thing. I think in the life of the church, it's a marker. So like looking and saying, in the new year, we're going to do this. By the new year, we're going to do that. So I think all that stuff's good. I am not a resolution guy. So here's what I would say to you. If you're a resolution, like if you're a resolution person, that is fantastic and go for it. Like I'm not anti New Year's resolution. But what I find is this. I find that when I make a resolution and I attach it to a starting date, it's a excuse for delay and an excuse for indulgence. So like if I need to start, if I'm going to take a social media fast, what I've done is I've like excused my social media habit until January 1.
Right.
And then I'm going to gorge up to midnight on December 31st. So but that you have a personality, you're like, that's a good thing. And I'm like, that's great. I know that's what I would do.
Yeah.
If I'm going on a diet, I'm pounding a pizza the night before I start, kind of a thing. So I'm probably a big calendar guy. But I don't do a lot of resolutions because I just find that I will excuse myself from what I need to do. If you feel like God is asking you to start something or stop something, then do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Don't wait.
Don't wait, and just kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. It's that's the way I see it. So but I do think there's something. I don't know, there's something about like in January, like reaffirming your relationship with God. And it's why I'm like, I don't want to be all pessimistic. I think there's a real upside to it and a good side to it. I just know like maybe that's the dangerous side for me and my personality, at least. My personality is I'm going to be the guy that can get away with something as long as I can get away with it. And so when the Lord is like, hey, knock it off, I need to knock it off then, or I will ignore that leading with things.
So Jeff, I think there's something in that season of life where people, they're mindful of our culture around us. People are trying to think through New Year's resolutions. Or what's a goal for this year? I know a lot of people right now are like, what's my word for the year? Like, categorizing things, helping people put things in buckets. But like for us as Christ followers, how do we like leverage those things with the people in our churches, the people that we're leading in our ministry? Like, how can we help them, like when we really boil it down, to learn or maybe relearn something in that area of how can you be self-controlled this year, keep Jesus in the center? Like, what does that look like for you guys as a church?
What we found is that the January time frame is a great time to do something that teaches the basics that leads to a bigger thing. So, for instance, I just finished another book called Assume I Know Nothing, and it's a guide to understanding the Bible from scratch. So if you're discipling somebody or know someone who has, like, I don't even know what the Old and New Testament is. That's what this book is. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that book, we'll turn it into a teaching series and literally start you from scratch. So whether that is your relationship with Jesus, whether that is a relationship series, whether that's like a My Life series, I'm going to reorder my life. That tends to be like the cultural mindset. Like I'm at zero.
Yeah.
Build in these first 5 or 6 steps so that I move forward. And that's kind of the tone that we take with it. We're not going to jump in the middle of like, we're not going to be like, it's the new year. Let's go back to Romans.
Right.
Like we're going to do something new. And it's going to be oriented to positioning yourself in such a way that God is doing something new in your life, basically. So we're gonna grab that spirit, so to say. And if you went on our website, which is graceohio.org, that's the church's website. If you looked at all the January series, there's some tone like that. And if you're a pastor, you have public permission to use all of that.
There you go.
If it's helpful for you. But we're gonna walk in that vibe for sure.
Yeah. Let's go the other direction. We could both probably share some of our like New Year's resolution pet peeves.
Yeah.
I have some friends who they're like anti New Year's resolution because they go cynical and they've seen people so I like what you're saying of like know your personality. How do you counteract or negate some of that thinking, especially in church world where people are like, I tried to do the diet thing one time and it lasted 3 days, so I'm never doing that again. How do you help shift those mindsets when people are like a stick in the mud about it? Like, what does that look like?
I think whenever you make a life-altering decision, it needs to be manageable, attainable, and tangible. And so, like, if you said, in the new year, I'm going to get healthy, like that doesn't mean anything.
Right. What does that look like?
My word for the new year is simplicity. And like, it doesn't mean a thing. So like be tangible and measurable and attainable. So if you said, my goal for the new year is to clean out 1 space in my house per month to simplify. My goal for the new year is to be on a diet. My goal is to lose 1 pound a week. Right?
Yep.
That it's attainable. My goal for the new year is to pay $100 extra against the balance on my credit card.
Yeah.
It's when we're like, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm like, no, you're not. That's so not happening. And then you're like, I blew my New Year's resolution. I'm like, it wasn't a resolution. It was a declaration that didn't mean anything. Yep. And I think the same thing, like when you're setting goals, like as a church, I went to a church one time and they're like, and they had 47 goals for the new year. I'm like, how do you keep track of that? And how do you communicate it? Yeah. Like maybe 3, but they're measurable, they're attainable, and they're tangible. Like I measure it, I can track it, I can achieve it. Yeah. And then I can see the achievement. Like inner peace is not a goal.
Right.
It's a statement. Yes. How do you know that you've achieved it?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So that's the way it's just the way my brain works. Now, I don't think you have to be like me. I think your life might be better. But, other people do your thing.
Yes.
But I think at least as an organizational leader, thinking in those ways so that people can see and they can measure and they're like, are we halfway to our goal? Are we not moving at all for our goal? I think it's an important thing.
And obviously, I mean, you said it earlier, like when God makes it clear, this is what I want you to do. Like, I mean, we can recite the verse in James, like, he who knows the thing he ought to do and doesn't, it's sin. Like, so if that's clear, you better figure out how to do that. So when he makes that clear, like, go all in. Put the pieces in place to help you succeed in that.
And every example of that in the scripture. So when Moses led the Israelites out of the promised land, there was a path and a plan.
Yep.
And we might say, no, they just did it. I'm like, no, there was a lead up.
Right.
There was a eat the night before, put the blood on your doorpost, follow the pillar of fire.
Yep.
Like
exactly.
They didn't just transport from Egypt to the promised land.
There's a way to know we did it or we didn't.
It was measurable,
Yes.
it was attainable, and it was tangible. Yeah.
All right. So Jeff, give us, we talk, we've done this with our Momentum staff. I know you've done it with the church staff as well. Walk us through your $2 investment and then the bullets and cannonballs analogy.
Yeah.
Explain that.
So neither one of these are mine. I just use them a lot. So there's a great little book called The Slight Edge, and I do not remember the name of the author off the top of my head. But
We'll find it and put it in the
you
show
Google
notes.
it. So The Slight Edge, and what all The Slight Edge says is this: it says small incremental movements implemented over time lead to big change. And to be honest with you, Eric, I can't remember if this illustration is in the book or if I made it up.
Nice.
But I'm going to give it credit to the book because it definitely was inspired at a minimum by the book.
I love it because it's one that you've used so often, but it works.
Yeah, it's an easy thing. So what the question I ask is this: if you were going to buy a cup of coffee or you were going to put money in a savings account, if you had $2, does it change your life to spend $2 on a cup of coffee today? And the answer is no. Does it change your life if you put $2 in a savings account today? The answer is no. Then change the equation. If you repeated that same action for 365 days, can that be life-changing? And it's this whole idea of small movements repeated over time lead to big change. So I'm a very strong believer in this, that you don't have to get up and hit a grand slam. If you try to hit home runs, the probability of you striking out goes up.
Yep.
What you're taught to do as a baseball player is to make contact. Make contact. And if you make contact, the ball it could be a single, it could be a double, a triple, or if some pitcher leaves a big fat fastball over the middle of the plate, you'll hit it out of the park. But make contact, and all the right things happen when you make contact. Mm-hmm. And that's what a $2 investment is. It's me making contact. So this is kind of what I'm saying over all this is like, I'm going to change my life. I'm like, you're probably not. Can you just said it, like, can you cut out coffee or probably sugar or something like that? Like, you can do that.
Yep.
Is that sustainable over time? It actually is sustainable over time, right? Will it make a major difference? It actually will make a major difference. It will move the ball forward. Yeah. So I teach that principle a lot in life, and then I teach it a lot in leadership. Because when I read that the first time, I was like, this is the simplest. Again, the book is called The Slight Edge. It's the simplest little thing. We don't have to change everything. We have to keep changing things. A quote that's a famous one, I heard it from Newt Larson. I don't know if it was his or somebody else's, but what he said was, it's amazing how little you can achieve in 1 year and how much you can achieve in 5. And that's just that $2 investment, $2 investment,
Yep.
$2 investment.
Yep.
The bullets and cannonballs illustration is from Jim Collins. So Jim Collins wrote the book Good to Great.
Yep.
He wrote the book Great by Choice. He wrote the book How the Mighty Fall. Those are phenomenal books if you're an organizational leader.
Yeah.
They're business books. They're not Christian books. But it's just great organizational stuff. So what he said was this. He said, imagine a scenario where you are a British passenger ship and you look up on the horizon and there's a pirate ship coming after you. And so you tell the sailors to man the cannons, and when they get into the storeroom, they find out that they only have enough gunpowder to either shoot 2 cannonballs or 20 musket shots. What do you do? And he said, if you shoot the 2 cannonballs, what happens is this. You put half of your powder, you fire 1 cannonball, and let's say you miss the pirate ship by 50 feet. You adjust, dial in, you fire the second cannonball, and you miss the pirate ship by only 5 feet, you're still dead.
Yep.
He says, the other thing you could do is take half of your powder, shoot 10 musket shots, and when the last one hits the pirate ship, line your cannon up on that, and then fire 1 cannonball and sink the pirate ship. So we use this principle a lot at Momentum, and I use it a lot in other places that I lead. It's small beta tests, small trials. Let's try this, and when we have it dialed in, then we'll expend a lot of energy, money, effort to do something. So I'll give you an example of this. At our church, we experimented with sports ministry for 10 years, lots and lots of bullets. 10 years ago, I fired a cannonball. We bought a building, hired Donnie Varney, our sports ministry pastor, went all in on sports ministry. Now, it is the number one avenue in which people come to our church. Yeah. But it took us 10 years before we went big. Yep. Because we need to understand it. Now, you don't have to do things for 10 years, but it's just a decision-making process. So if I was going to go on a diet, the first thing I would do is fire bullets. And I would say, what food can I cut out of my life that I actually don't care about, but I just eat? So for me, it's sweets. I'm not a big sweet guy. And so I'm like, the reason I ate the brownie is because it was there. Or I actually don't even like the cookie. I just ate it. Yeah. So I'm going to look and say, can I start by cutting those things out of my life? Then I'm going to look and say, okay, now that I've got some self-discipline habits, what is the food that I like that's really bad for me? For me, number one, no holds barred, no second place, bread. Like I love pizza, any kind of bread, right? Yeah. Well, now I fire that. I'm only now that I have some self-discipline in my life, I'm only going to eat bread on purpose, right? Do that with church stuff. We're going to try a new program in our youth ministry. We'll try it with 5 kids. Yep. Then try it with 10. You don't have to introduce it to the youth group. Yep. Or to the church immediately. Right. You can play with it and see if it works. And it's small incremental efforts and changes that lead to big things over time.
Yeah, very good. Jeff, I love this conversation because I think it's so meaningful. There's a book that I read even just this past year, James Clear's Atomic Habits.
It's a great book.
Super good. But he talks about this idea of like habit stacking.
Yep.
And so even that, like if you want to be disciplined and learn self-control, floss or, make a goal to do that every day. And when you do it for 2 months, then add in, now when I floss, I'm going to pray. And I'm going to pray for this thing. And so that's his idea of habit stacking. Like when you start stacking up habits that you want to have, maybe they're aspirational, but that is a simple way to keep adding in. It's this, it's the $2 investment. And over time, then those things begin to add up and have a significant impact.
So if I was making a New Year's resolution, my resolution would be read The Slight Edge and read Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
That would be my resolution. Yeah. And then I would I would go on top of that and say, I want to implement one piece of advice from the Slight Edge and one piece of advice from Atomic Habits. And then I want to add to that every month.
Yeah.
12 months later, you have 24 new healthy habits and you have moved your life forward. If I said add 24 habits this week, you'd be like, you've lost your mind.
You can't do it.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
That's the principle, I think. And then you do that over a year, you do that over a decade, you wind up being a different person. It's the same, all this stuff is biblical as far as its roots. So it's add to your faith, love, add to your, grow in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ more and more. It's the root of all those ideas are coming from Christ. Yeah. They're just applying them in business, but you go back there in the Bible.
Abide.
It's growing in your relationship with Christ.
Yep. Fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah, spiritual disciplines. It's all the same. They looked at all truth is God's truth. So ultimately, out of the Scripture, they're like, oh, if you take something like this and do it in business, I'm like, great. But when we do it with our heart, our soul, and our mind, and our family, all the right priorities, it's going to work the same way.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you for this conversation. It's super helpful. We don't do this very often, but why don't you close us in prayer and just pray for our listeners?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Jesus, thanks for our friends who are listening to this podcast. And God, thanks for what you're doing in their life. God, life is not easy all the time. And whether it's parenting or pastoring and everything in between. And so, God, sometimes when we start into the new year, we start in with a limp. And so, God, we just pray that you'll meet us in that place, that you'll help us, that we might look back and say, I don't ever want to do that again. And God, help us to heal from those places. But then give us a vision, Lord, a vision for your kingdom, a vision for the lost, a vision for how you can use us, a vision for our families, all the things that you entrust us with. And God, give us a vision to be used in that way. And then surround us with people that will help to spur us on to love and good deeds. And so just go before our friends, God, and make a clear path, call them to it, and then give them the faith and the courage to follow you this new year. In your name, Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode. We look forward to a new year and having new content. So subscribe, like this, make sure that you're getting these every week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope you found it to be valuable. And if you did, would you share it with someone else in your network who might enjoy it? Also, would you please go on and subscribe, rate, and review it? That way you don't miss any more and somebody else will be able to find it too. Also, because we want to be your trusted resource, if you have a question or topic that you would like us to discuss on an upcoming episode, send that to us via email to info@buildmomentum.org, or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. You can find us there at Momentum Ministry Partners. Also, if you need more information on our ministry, be sure to check out our website at buildmomentum.org. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next time.